Hello everyone, Razorblade Mango here. And today I wanted to give some raw, honest thoughts on all the drama that has been surrounding the possible cancellation about what was going to be Naughty Dog's upcoming game, The Last of Us Factions 2. If you haven't heard by now, it's more than likely that Factions 2 will either get sent back to the drawing board or it will just be permanently put on ice to be canceled at a later date. And look, I'll be honest, despite how this is going to sound, because I understand that some people will hear this and think I am being mean, especially if they are somebody who works at Naughty Dog, I am perfectly fine with this happening. And I want to say, before I get into it further, is that this was one of the live services that I saw some potential in. Like, I talked about Helldivers 2 recently. I also think the upcoming Horizon multiplayer game is one of the ones that I see some potential in. I think the rumored Twisted Metal game could be alright. And I thought Factions 2, if done well, could be really good. In fact, I thought this was going to be the big premiere live service for PlayStation. This was going to be the one that they dropped where they go, this is what a PlayStation live service could look like. Because most of the time when people think of live services, they don't think of the super hyper polished kind of games that Sony usually makes. Sony could have come out with Factions 2 being polished to the nth degree and made a real statement with that, saying, look, our live services are going to be the most polished fucking things you've ever seen. But as we all know at this point, that's not going to happen. Or at least that's not going to happen for a very, very long time. And I am fine with that. Look, guys, I am over 30 years old at this point. I have been a PlayStation gamer for a very long time. The Last of Us Factions 2 is not the kind of game that I go to PlayStation for. And even if that means Naughty Dog's next new game, whatever that may be, a sequel or a new IP, won't come out for another 5 years after this, I am perfectly okay with that. I would gladly take a potential Last of Us Part 3 over yet another over-monetized live service that wants to be treated like a full-time job. I think The Last of Us Factions had the potential to be something really cool. But especially with Bungie's influence in there, and how much of a monetization hellscape Destiny 2 is these days, and I assume it's going to be for Marathon whenever that comes out, I simply don't trust Bungie's advice to Naughty Dog about player retention being something that would personally interest me. And I know a lot of the blame is going to get for this is going to get thrown at the feet of, Jim Ryan and Bungie and PlayStation's live service initiative. And I definitely think, blame needs to be shared with all three of those entities. But I think the failure of Factions 2 needs to be placed on Naughty Dog as well. Naughty Dog have a notorious reputation for feature creep and way expanding the scope of their games. And that's worked out for them so far in terms of, like Uncharted or The Last of Us. But for a game like Factions 2, I really don't think such an expansive scope and suite of features and stuff really was all that necessary. And I think the higher-ups at Naughty Dog needed to rein this project in if it wanted to be more successful. So yes, I do place some of the blame at Naughty Dog's feet as well. And I want to keep this brief. So my final point with this is that I don't understand why every multiplayer thing out there has to be a live service these days. I don't understand why Factions 2, back in 2020 or 2021, could not have just been a small little multiplayer add-on or a little side standalone multiplayer game with no microtransactions. I don't understand, other than pure greed, why it needed to expand so much to the point that it did, why they needed to bring on one of the Fortnite Battle Pass monetization designers to help out on the game, why they needed Bungie's influence on this. It's just, and it's not like I'm talking crazy here. I think what Ghost of Tsushima did with Legends is exactly what I'm talking about. And that mode's existence showed me that what I'm describing is possible. It is possible to release a small multiplayer add-on to your game and not have it be swamped with microtransactions, which that was my immediate concern when I heard about Legends for the first time. And I was proven wrong, because Legends, I think, is one of the best multiplayer add-ons in recent memory in any game. And I felt like what Factions 2 should have been was just that. It should have just been an add-on to The Last of Us Part 2, and then they eventually sell it by itself for maybe $20, like what they did with Legends. And I think Legends is worth $20, especially without the microtransactions in there. I don't know, guys. I see a lot of people, mourning this thing's death and getting upset at Bungie and Naughty Dog, and I just don't have the. I'll be honest. I'm not shedding tears about this. I think it is a shame that we probably won't get to see what Naughty Dog had been working on, because it was probably going to be cool until they came and like jammed all the microtransactions down your throat. But I am not going to cry for this thing's death, if I'm being brutally honest. And like I said a few months back when I talked about, why, the obvious reasons of why I think the Sony live service initiative is a mistake, is that weirdly enough, Bungie's presence getting this thing canceled or at least put on ice is honestly, I think, their most worthwhile influence on Sony so far. If Bungie being there and giving the thumbs down to a lot of these games means that we get less of these overly monetized live services that want you to fucking pay attention to them day in and day out, the less of these we get, the happier I am. I just want to say that again. The Last of Us Factions 2, I'm not saying it would have been terrible. What I'm saying is that even though it could have been cool, I'm not upset that we're losing out on it. I'm really not. And I know that sounds mean. I know that sounds cruel. I know it must suck for the developers because they just had so many years of their hard work just flushed down the toilet. But as a PlayStation fan who comes to their stuff for the single player joints, I couldn't care less, honestly. I'm too old to be playing games like these. And again, I think Sony releasing so many of these live services is a big mistake. And if this could happen to their premier studio under one of like their premier franchises, then I don't know with some of these other live services that are looking to come out. But yeah, that's all I had to say. Just wanted to keep it brief and to the point and blunt. Maybe a little too blunt, but hey, that's just how I feel. Sorry, not sorry.